Hi, Anti-Society! Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out Stray Kids' Social Path featuring LiSA. Now, LiSA is an artist. I do know a few of her songs. That's pretty much all I know. I don't know anything else about her, or I haven't seen any music videos or anything like that, but I have heard some of her songs over the years, and I think that title really intrigues me, Social Path, because it makes me think of like societal expectations, both in terms of following the path, right? Like staying in your lane of what society is expecting of you, and then also feels a little bit like a play on words of sociopath, which is breaking some of those social expectations. Obviously, that's a very simplified definition of that. I know, but the basic gist of perhaps being confined by what society wants from you and then breaking out of that, especially given some of the themes and like storyline stuff that we have with Stray Kids. I feel like that's definitely how I'm leaning going into this, but I don't think I've heard any of this song. It's possible, but I'll let you know if I recognize any of it. But nothing's coming to mind with this title, so I'm excited to see what we're gonna get. I have no idea what this is gonna sound like. It could be anything, because Stray Kids. Okay. I've definitely heard this. Ooh, okay. First off, I have heard that Gave Up My Youth. Super interesting. I love like the guitar coming in, kind of the swell of that, and then having Felix be the vocal on that, right? Like he has a little bit of grit to the way that he performs. So I think that's also really fun with that like electric guitar coming through and it just like speeding up and getting into a really like bright sound in terms of the production and just like a lot of speed, especially having like Tangbin take over with that, right? Like he has a faster cadence to the way that he's delivering, and even like repetition, right? It has this feeling like rushing forward. For my future, I just want to rise up. Whoa, okay, it feels like we're slowing down a little bit, but I love how sped up this is, right? There's so much hit the ground running to this, which I feel like fits a little bit with what I've heard from LiSA's music anyway. I know that Stray Kids team has some like writing credits in this as well, but I think that it's really fun to have this like really rushing forward, especially like with this idea of giving up youth and like playing off of that again, like the youth that everyone says I gave up on. I think that's really fun, is like having that be like the start point, and we have this like rushing forward in terms of the sound sonically of the song, production, and like the delivery. I like the bouncing back and forth there between two of the rappers, but at the same time they're playing off of that of saying I didn't give up on it. There's still this youthful, bright sound to this. It's like I feel like I have the momentum to keep going and to keep rushing forward and to not be bogged down by other things. Yeah, like this idea of not taking them lightly, and crystal, right? Like something that is super strong but is created like under pressure, right? I think like diamonds. So I think it's really interesting to see this beautiful thing has come from this like these points of pressure and create something that's very like solid and strong, and at the same time there's like this kind of like rushing like bounce to it. There's kind of something like youthful in the brightness of the production and the way that they're performing it. So I think that's really interesting too, to be like playing off of that, of saying people think that I gave up on youthfulness and everything that they associate with that in terms of being carefree and happy. You don't have to have as many like worries and stuff like that, and especially coming off of some of the stuff that they got into with 5 Star, I think it's interesting kind of pulling some of that forward. Then to have like this very like youthful, bright sound to this, to be like, we haven't given it up. We haven't decided that it isn't worth acknowledging. We have that kind of like youthful optimism and spirit. We've also been through a bunch of stuff, and like we have that youthful optimism in spite of the things that we've gone through and not given up on it. So I think that's a really fun sound, and then we're like slowing things down a little bit.
Everyone keeps turning me down. Countless new surroundings. Cold eyes keep looking me down. I'm still in the crowd, alien of the town. Yeah, they want me to give up right now. Making me laugh, it's so loud. Waking the demon deciding inside.
Whoa. Oh, this does make me think, like, is this like part of an OST? I feel like it should be, given the sound. I don't know if it is, or if it's just a Japanese track. I'm trying to think of all the stuff that they worked on Japanese-wise. I know it's not the Tower of God stuff. Anyway, let me know if there's more stuff going into this, because it feels like it should be an OST if it's not. But I love that slowdown. I love having Hyunjin's voice there, because he has so much character in his voice, but he also has such a laid-back way that he can perform in his voice. And I think that it fits so well with pulling back a bunch of that energy that we started off, right? This hit the ground running, and then it's this more introspection of, despite the fact that we do have this optimism, we do want to keep like rushing forward, we also acknowledge that it's not without struggles, right? Like they've already acknowledged that there were struggles along the way of getting to this point, and talk about like new surroundings and like lonely and like people looking down on me. And I think that's interesting to be like, I'm still there though. Like I'm still in this crowd. I'm still like pushing forward. I'm still like part of things that are going on. And that like nice bright sound from Ian before we get into the chorus.
I'm still in the crowd, alien of the town. Yeah, they want me to give up right now. Making me laugh, it's so loud. Waking the demon that's hiding inside. You only get to live one life, I know. I'm ready, take that chance. No matter what they tell me, I cannot explain the feeling. Yeah, this path was meant to be my dream.
Live like the ashes, breathe my passion. Now it burns eternally. No regrets, I love the feeling. Down at this road, feel like the social path.
Ooh, okay. I love how bright and forward the sound is. Obviously, some of that is like Lisa's voice, but I love that Bantan is meeting that energy and this idea of you only get to live one life. They talked about that in one of Taemin's lines. He talks like there isn't going to be like a second chance. And like the idea of not being able to explain like a feeling, it's like I can't explain to you the complexities of why I'm continuing to push forward, why I still have this optimism, why I still have this energy, this like fire under me that continues to push me forward. Even this like the ashes, right, prove that I'm kind of like burning through like this path, right? Like the social path again of this idea of, I don't know, blazing a trail through it, right? Talk about being in the crowd in the pre-chorus, and then talk about making your own way and saying, I don't have any regrets. I'm going to continue forward. I love this feeling. I can't explain it, but it's something that I love and like fuels me going forward. Super bright, energetic song. There's so much momentum, like forward momentum in the song, which is really fun.
Right now, making me laugh, it's so loud. Waking the demon that's hiding inside. You only get to live one life, I know. I'm ready, take that chance. No matter what they tell me, I cannot explain the feeling. Yeah, this path was meant.
It was really intense, like horns as well. Very Stray Kids.
Eternally, no regrets, I love the feeling. Down at this road, feel like the social path.
I'm tossing, turning in my bed. The voices in my head again. I gotta shake them off now. Now or never. Living you, I see so many people come and go. I see the mirror, it's only me. Every time it's taking over, I'ma let it go.
Ooh, interesting. Again, I love that we're having Felix's voice there. We have so much energy that's like explosive in the chorus, pulling everything back with Felix's voice because it's like that deeper cadence. And even like slowing down some of the delivery. I was thinking there's even a little bit of a fast delivery in the chorus of just like some of the sounds that I don't know, there's something almost like plucky or staccato, but like some of the sounds that are building some of that kind of rushing, tumbling forward feeling of the song. And then having someone like Felix, who's kind of like slowing things down, condensing, grounding things a little bit. And I think that's really interesting when we get into some of the introspection of the lyrics, right? Like tossing and turning in my bed. There's this self-doubt that's happening, talking about people come and going. Again, the loneliness that we're having references to of being like, it's only me in the mirror, both in terms of the kind of like inner demons that we're fighting, but also like people coming and going and the feeling as if you're actually by yourself. You look in the mirror and it's like, oh, I'm the only one like left around. Yeah, like I fight myself, it's only me. And I like the distortion on that too, because it's a voice that you're aware of, like being like self-aware of, oh, I'm like the inner demons that I'm fighting, as opposed to something external that I'm up against. And yet at the same time, it's like through this very like distorted voice that's maintaining some of that distance still. Like even though I'm aware of it, that doesn't make the ability of getting over that any easier. Like it still feels like it's something separate from me, even though I'm aware that it's just my own thoughts that I'm battling with, right?
Come off now. Now or never. Living you, I see so many people come and go. I see the mirror.
I like how we have shorter lines where they're switching too.
Taking over,
The like build up is so good.
You only get to live a life I know. I'm ready to take that chance no matter what they tell me. I cannot explain this feeling. Yeah, this path was meant to be my dream.
Let's fight the ashes, breathe my passion. Now it burns eternally. No regrets, our love is reeling down this road. Feel like it's all should pass.
Whoa, Felix. Sorry. I wasn't ready for you to be subterranean for a second. Hold on. I want to talk about some of the other stuff. Okay, I love the buildup. Again, like this like momentum, almost like, again, we have this introspection in the pre-chorus. There's a little bit of like self-doubt like leaking in, and then we have this like momentum building up of rushing forward anyway, right? Like even though I have this self-doubt, even though there are like voices in my head that tell me like I'm not going to be able to do this, I know that I'm fighting myself, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep trying, because the alternative is like giving up, and I'm not gonna do that. I really liked the vocals that we got from Lino here. He has so much closure in his voice, like that bright sound. I think that he fits really well with that. I also really liked Sungmin having that like lighter vocal, in contrast to like Hyunjin doing the same lines in the pre-chorus before. I think that it was like controlling the energy really well, wanting a different build up in the first chorus as opposed to this one. So I really like the way that they switch things up, and then having Lino perform this one. It feels a little bit like he's pulling up his chest voice. We're getting like a nice mix from him, and it feels like it's like just around where he's capping off in some of where he can do that. And I think that's really fun too, because it shows that he's continuing to work on his voice. I feel like he's gone like leaps and bounds with his voice. He's always been like a really good performer, but there's something about, I think, like Ordinary, there was like a little bit of a shift, and then after that point I just feel like he's just gotten so much better with his vocals, and they just feel like they shine through. So I feel like it's really fun to see that he's still like pushing where that kind of like top point is in some of his voice and figuring it out. I'll be interested to see how it develops as I get into the later stuff, and like I know that there's the like units and the solos and stuff like that, so I'm excited to get to split that and see like how his voice continues to develop, because I'm still behind. But from what I've heard, he's progressed so much, and I think that it's really fun to get to see some of that progression.
Up right now, making me laugh, it's so loud, breaking the demon deciding inside. You only get to live a life I know. I'm ready to take that chance no matter what they tell me.
I really like the beat on it too.
This feeling, yeah, this path was meant to be my dream.
Let's fight the ashes, breathe my passion. Now it burns eternally. No regrets, our love
I love how pingy her voice is. Like it's so strong.
Way back to the past, don't step ahead. Go right in front of me.
다 지저분한 기억실에 사는 제목 목가심이 tiny 외우하시는
Oh, Han. Whoa, okay, wait. I need a second. One, love getting the lower tone from Felix. We love it anyway. But I think that it's so fun. Again, it's like a grounding thing, right? Like I feel like a lot of the time earlier on in them figuring out how to use Felix's voice, there was a little bit of the shock value that comes from it, right? Because there aren't a lot of like low voices in K-pop, let alone like bass voices in K-pop. So he sticks out a lot for that. But I love the way that he's grounding this song, right? Like I was saying, there's so much forward momentum. There's so much energy in it that I feel like having Felix's deeper tone here really just like grounds it. It makes me feel like someone who's, again, making sure their feet are like placed properly. It's almost like the way that your shoes dig into the ground while you're running, continuing to go forward. And it's like, I know that like I can't go back to the past. I know that there are mistakes. I know there are things I would have done differently. I know that there's like all of these doubts that kind of like swirl around in my head because of that, right? But I can't go back. I can't turn back. That's not an option. I have to just keep going forward. And I only get to live one life, so I might as well take the chance and keep going and just see what happens. And even the pre-chorus of talking about like laughing, right? This idea of just like letting yourself seem almost like a little bit manic, right? Like this idea of being like, I'm just gonna laugh it off and I'm gonna let the demons win and I'm just gonna keep going, even though people are gonna look at me like I'm crazy, because the only other option is like wallowing in the self-doubt and the anxieties and like the things going on in my head, and I can't do that. So I really like that we have that kind of like grounding of Felix's voice, and then the energy of Han's voice hitting that belting note. Gorgeous. There's a little bit of grit to it as well, which I feel like we don't get a whole lot of from Han, so I love hearing it here.
To the past, don't step ahead. Go right in front of me.
I like putting the map back together too. Beautiful little like progression down again after. That's fun. Ooh, so interesting. Okay, one, to have that like chant, right, that we had at the beginning with Felix, bringing it back to have almost just like a little bit of a loop to it, but with those like layered vocals, right? It feels more like a chant. It feels more like this kind of battle cry, which I love. I love how I think they pushed LiSA's vocals a little bit more forward in the mixing, but some of that might just be because of she's such a distinct, bright tone that in contrast to having the lower vocals, right? And also the fact that we have like masculine voices versus a more like feminine voice, so it's going to cut through anyway. But I love the way that they arranged that, where you can very much hear her voice kind of cutting through, and even though you have this like group chant feeling to those vocals, it's still like having this like higher, bright, almost like victorious sounding vocal from her. So I love that that's like the voice that's like leading the rest of them, so it feels like this rallying cry in a lot of ways. And I think that's a really fun thing to have at the end of this song, to be like, one, have a moment where the feature gets to sing and show off her voice, but also having this feeling of a rallying cry forward, of being like, it's something that we can all sing along to as like a crowd, right? So I think that's really fun for this song as well, being like moving forward, and especially like also thinking about like giving up youth and all of that for a group called like Stray Kids, right? And the fact that that's very much part of how they talk about like their fans and the people that they want to support in their music. And even in this, touching on voices in your head, and the person I'm fighting is myself, right? So I think that it's also fun to have that like collective vocal, but also like this rallying cry of keep going, keep trying, keep getting up and moving forward, because there's going to be a moment in which you like can get that momentum back. Don't just think that because you're having a moment where it's a bit more of a struggle, that's like the be all and end all of what you're capable of. You're going to be able to figure this out. So I really like having all of that kind of coming together. So much energy in the song, and I love it. I feel like I didn't bring enough hype of my energy into this. I think I was a little bit too subdued given what I was about to wander into, but I'm excited that we get a video, right? Music video. I don't have any captions for this, so nobody come at me. That's why we check out a lyric video first. Also, a moment of Felix Freckles appreciation. That's all. I love that he has this like vibrant blue hair though. Fantastic. I remember that being an era. I just wasn't caught up on music yet. Fun. Whoa. Sir. Whoa. Okay, first off, that's cool. Second, was it Bangtan who was just like bending backwards? Sir, some of us have chronic back pain. I need you to not show off. Hang on, hold on. This crazy. Who allowed Lino to have fire though? That seems ill-advised. They look fantastic. The world seems a little bit worse for wear. See, like that is just rude for someone with chronic pain. Thank you. I like that. The hand. Okay, visuals. But like the hand, we have like the masked people with the question marks on the like bag or whatever. But it's like this like anonymity or not understanding who you are, but banding together. I like that image, especially given the song. Ooh, I like the use of shadows. Like hands. Whoa, okay. I like the image of him like sleeping, and it's like the hand, like shadows over top of him. Crazy visuals. Who's stuck here? Tied up, chained up? Yeah, no, I thought I saw a lip ring of some kind. You can't get past me like that. Love the color grading though. This like low saturation, but then like these reds coming through, because I definitely associate like red with Stray Kids. Maybe it's just because that was like such a color that they were going with for a while. But I love the contrast of that, like having such a vibrant parts of color. Even like Felix's hair, right? This vibrant blue in this like desaturated world, I think is really fun. Even like white. And the in and out of like light and darkness. Oh my goodness. Okay, it was Han. Calm down, sir. The mirrors though, like kind of being trapped inside yourself. We had mirrors in the lyrics. Whoa. Okay, I know I'm pausing so much, but the visuals, like the image of it, we've already listened to the song, okay? But again, the visual of like Han in a bunch of mirrors chained up, like he can't escape it. He's stuck in kind of this confined spot, almost like water was around it too. So it's almost like being adrift in this dark place and being kind of like trapped with yourself. We had the lyrics that talked about like mirrors and like the person I'm fighting is myself. But it's also like mirrors, right? When you have them like back to back, they like reflect infinitely. So it has this feeling of being stuck in this like infinite repeat, or there's like multiple different versions of you that you're thinking through, right, in terms of like anxieties. And then this of all the hands reaching out to Lino while he's on this bed, like nightmares, and having the hands again like we had with Tengbin. Whoa. Yeah.
Everyone keeps turning me down. Countless new surroundings.
Oh.
Keep looking me down.
Ooh, whoa. So interesting to have, again, like these masks. I was thinking before of banding together, but maybe it's like holding back. Like it's like the anonymity of other people. Like it could be like anxieties of any kind. It could be any kind of like internal struggle, which is why it's like this anonymity, like this way of taking away some of the humanity of these things, because it's more like an internal struggle. But it could also be like being critiqued anyway, or like having their lives kind of analyzed in terms of them being like public figures and idols and stuff like that. So there is like a lot of anonymity in people who can like try and drag them down. The way that Lito's being held up is still like these hands grabbing at him, wanting something from him, and then it's almost like Hyunjin is being like buried under it, right, of them all like swarming around him. So it's both like the being like the same thing that kind of can propel you forward, right, in terms of being like a perfectionist isn't like necessarily a bad thing unless it starts to take over your life, right? Like you can want to do a really good job at something because it matters to you, but the moment that it becomes like something that's perfectionism and anxiety that's fueling it, that can be a difficult thing, right? Or even just like getting attention. That's great if you want to be an idol, if you want to be someone who has a successful career in like music, but it can also be something that ends up being negative because you can't control what attention you're getting, right? You can't control whether or not it's like good constructive attention or like negative critiquing attention, right? So I think it's really interesting to have that image of Lino like both being held up by these figures, but he's also like clearly scared of them. So I think that's interesting. And then having them kind of like break through this like door or whatever, like trying to hide everything, contain it.
Keeps turning me down. Countless new surroundings. Cold eyes keep looking me down. I'm feeling the crowd.
Whoa.
They want me to give up right now. Making me laugh, it's so loud. Waking the demon that's hiding inside.
Ooh, I love, okay, we had the image of the hallway, right? Like this confined space again. I really like that we're having lots of moments of them like in a bed too, because it talked about tossing and turning in your bed, right? This idea of like when you don't have anything to distract you, that's when the thoughts take over and you can't like escape from what you're thinking about and like analyzing about yourself. Maybe I'm speaking from experience. Some of us have anxiety, okay? I understand what sad boy hours are like, all right? I like that we have this confined space of the hallway, and then at this kind of like victorious moment of saying it makes me laugh and it's so loud and I'm gonna let the demons out, right? We get this opening up of that space, right? And like the sound even lifts, right? So I love that image along with it, and they all walk around him as opposed to clawing at him the way, like reaching for him the way they did with Sungmin.
I'm feeling the crowd. Alien of the town. Yeah, they want me to give up right now. Making me laugh, it's so loud. Waking the demon that's hiding inside. You only get to live one life.
It was a fun graphic.
Take that chance, no matter what they tell me. I cannot explain this feeling. Yeah, this path was meant to be my dream.
Whoa, look at the outfit. Whoa, I love this almost like middle space. We have this digital kind of like middle space, right? It's this kind of liminal not space, right, that they're in, like they're dancing in. And even this, almost, is it like film or whatever? I think that's really interesting to have it looped around her, spotlight, again, like critique, or almost there being like a record of one's mistakes, or like going back through one's mistakes or anxieties or whatever. But it's something that's being kept at bay by these like lights, right? Almost like they're not allowed to touch her, or like she's in a place where it isn't like as effective, it doesn't affect her as much. And then this kind of like liminal digital space that's like nowhere specific, where they could like just hold on to like the emotion that they're feeling, as opposed to like the realities in the other sets that we have that are a little more like grounded in reality. It's obviously a little bit more metaphorical in the imagery though.
No matter what
Love the arm movements on that like percussion. Or maybe it's because she has the mic. It can't affect her because she has a voice.
I'm tossing, turning in my bed.
Whoa, the like speed up.
I gotta shake 'em off now.
Whoa. Okay, we got like the glass again. I love the image of it like being sped up, like swirling around him, right? Like this idea of a lot of time passing in which he's thinking about it, ruminating about it. I also think it's interesting that he like touched his throat when he's talking about like voices. Part of that might be like voice, but I think it might also just be like, again, I was thinking with LiSA of her having the microphone, maybe that's what's keeping the kind of film or like the observation in a way back, is because she has the power of having her own voice and controlling that. And it could also be like a double-edged sword though, of like being afraid of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or whatever. Like I think that there's like a little bit being described there by Felix of this anxiety or like insecurity specifically about his voice, and whether or not that's about like his voice as a performer or if it's the ability to say something and not necessarily say the right thing, being critiqued for that, not being like articulating your ideas in the right way. Fascinating.
I'm tossing, turning in my bed. The voices in my head again. I gotta shake 'em off now.
That's scary though. The mirrors again. Ooh, that's scary. I don't like being like grabbed at. That is terrifying. Like the flashing lights too, of this idea of, again, like light and dark mixing together. It's like disorienting. It's being able to see but not. It's like I was saying about the obscuring of the voice, the talking about it's only me that I'm fighting, right? Like I'm fighting myself. So it's again this like obscuring with the light coming in and out of both being aware of the fact that there are like issues that you're struggling with, but not always being aware of all of the ramifications of that or all of the ripple effects of that. Cool camera work too. Bangchan has a lot of like crosses over his chest.
It's gonna be lonely, 'cause everyone keeps turning me down. Countless new surroundings, cold eyes keep looking me down. I'm still in
Whoa. I like that, pushing his way through. Eye contact, sir. Whoa, okay. Few things. One, I like with the image of these masks that we have so many different symbols, like the question mark, but we also have the plus, exclamation point, like there was minuses at what, like a squiggle, right? Like we have all these different things. And that makes me think again about being in the public eye, right? There are so many different things that are like, some of it's positive, some of it's negative, some of it's like confusing, some of it's meandering, some of it's like shocking, right? There's so many different ways that you can look at it, and that can be like being perceived in like the way that people comment on you, but it can also be all the things that are going on internally, right? Like anyone who has struggled with mental health can let you know that like it isn't all like one thing, right? It isn't like something that is consistent all of the time. It's can be like a mixture of things. Like I can both have anxiety and be happy on occasion, right? And can be like goofy and can be like lots of other emotions. It isn't like a limit of those emotions, just that there's like a lot of other things like mixing with it, and it can be confusing to sort through all of that, right? Especially when you're struggling with something and you're in that like ruminating, introspective kind of mindset that you're just digging up everything that you're feeling and thinking about, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just like pulling up the stuff that is like good or bad or whatever. And then I like having Hyunjin like forcefully like walking through this crowd. We had with Ayan before, they were like parting around him. It was a very like passive way of dealing with this kind of everything crowding around him. Whereas with Hyunjin, he's like forcibly going against that current, going back to like social path, of going against what people might want you to do, or like going against that like flow of energy or whatever, and forcing your own path through it. He doesn't need to have that kind of eye contact though. And then the red light. Sorry, no thought, just lean out center. Whoa, that's a cool image. Two sides. Whoa. Okay, I love having them like two separated by like the chasm, but like it's not, obviously it's a huge distance, it's a huge way to fall, but like it's not that far. And it goes back, I'm gonna see what happens, but it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the way that they arranged the vocals, where it felt like LiSA's vocals were like the leading part of the battle cry. So I think it's interesting to have that meeting point. I'm just gonna go back to Lino being center in the formation for no reason whatsoever, and definitely not because I'm bias. Not because I have a Lino bias. That's ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. But I am gonna watch it again. That's so creepy, having to like crawl towards him. Is that the fists we saw before? That's such a cool move. It's so smooth. But she smiles at them. Whoa.
To the past, I'll step ahead. Go right in front of me.
I feel like this doesn't need to be that intense. Whoa, okay, a few things. One, the wing, like the one wing for Felix. Interesting. I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to wings. Just because okay, one is like the angel imagery, which I think is interesting, especially given that I noticed that Bangtan has like a cross, like the red cross when he's wearing like the black shirt. But then when he had the white like mesh, there was like the solid section of it was also a cross on his chest. So I think that's interesting. Maybe it's just like could be like a couple of different things. Like I could think of it as like a form of protection, because I think he also has the necklace. Like he has the necklace that also has like cross imagery in the one outfit. But it could also be like, we say like someone gets crucified if they're used as a scapegoat, right? If they're used as a way of taking kind of all of the frustration and like anger that people have. And as the leader of Stray Kids, that's definitely happened for him. So I think that's really interesting. And then to have like the angel, but it's one wing, and we've had talks of like demon. It's almost makes me think of angel and devil, right? We've got the black and white. I was even thinking like the cup, right? The light and dark that we're battling with for a bunch of this. So it could be some of that, like angel and devil, like both, and not necessarily one or the other. And people painting you as either like this or that, right? This idea of them being perceived either as can do absolutely no wrong or the absolute worst, and instead occupying a middle ground of or just different, right? Or just doing something else. And that's also okay. And then having them again like walking through the crowd together, like breaking through that. And I think it's interesting to have Lito at the start, because before, when he was in that crowd and they were holding him up, he was like scared, right? Like he was scared of this crowd around him. And now we have him like leading the way, forcing against that crowd of all these other things getting in the way. And it looks like it is the part where we had Bangtan before and he got like stuck, like he wasn't able to get out, but now they're all together. So maybe we can figure out a way, because it's like the difference between doing something by yourself and then having people there to support you. Fascinating. So many different things.
Back to the past, I'll step ahead. Go right in front of me.
What a vocal from Han. And then he's like rising up there. Ooh. So okay, first off, the like rising above it, interesting image. The ripping open this like path. I wanted to mostly go back to see that smile. Cutie pie, but also we're getting some smiles from them now, where they're taking some of that power back for themselves. And also, like I was saying, we have like black and white, a lot of them wearing white in different parts of this, or like very subdued colors, and then having this like red that they're incorporating is like them like taking some of that like different, like not this or that, not good or bad, not white or black, like not that simple of a way of looking at them. It's like the complexities, and I think that's really fun too. But and the light coming through too. Also, Binny's outfit is great in this. That's a cool set. Sorry, they're cute little smiles. I'm sorry, they're like grown men, they're being performers or whatever, but like, yeah, that's fun. To have the flag and to have her holding it. I think it's also, again, it's like acknowledging the feature on this. I think that it's a great nod to have her like be like one of the last vocals, right? To have that focal point on her vocals, I think is really fun. And then having her hold the flag, I think, again, it's like this rallying cry of using her voice like symbolically of being this voice that is really like bright and pingy and it cuts through a bunch of the production and it has so much energy to it. So I think that's really fun having her be like a focal point of this. Red flag, again, like this idea of introducing some of that color in this world that feels like trying to simplify what's going on, and instead of being like it's not good or bad, it's not this or that, it's like the complexities, especially with red specifically. Red can be like a lot of different things, right? In terms of love, passion, anger, it can be like such a huge spectrum of like emotions and things that people are going through. So it's not, again, like red in of itself can be like perceived as both a good or a bad thing, right? Like it can be a warning or it can be like a sign of love. It depends on like the context. So I think that adding that in and even having this shot be like on that slight Dutch angle, I think is really interesting too, because again, it's not like good or bad, it's different. It's like a little bit off, and that's okay, right? Like them doing their own thing, having their own sound, having their own ideas of what they want to be as artists. So I think that's really fun to incorporate some of that, just like the final visual of them being like very like relaxed and together and this collective, but also still like there's still like stuff like burning around them. There's still like destruction, but it's embracing one's own like decisions and like autonomy and stuff like that. And I think that's really fun. So I just like quickly looked it up because I was like, it's gonna bug me. Looked up if it is in fact an OST for something, and it's not. It sounds like it should be. And I know that a lot of Stray Kids music already sounds like it should be an OST for something, but this one in particular, I'm like, it's about overcoming the odds and letting the inner demons out, even though the fight is with oneself. I just feel like that it's just sitting there waiting for an opportunity to be an anime OST, but here we are. Really like all the symbolism in that video. I feel like I talked a lot about it, but I think that the song itself had so much like intentionality in the way that it was like arranged and everything to communicate what they wanted, and then the music video just added extra layers of what that meant for each of them and being like very like metaphorical in some of the images, which I think is always fun with a Japanese release, is like having some of the fun visuals, and they tend to go a little bit more abstract with some of it, some of the storytelling. So I think that this one was like really fun. I like the way that they, even though LiSA had the same kind of like section throughout it, I really like how they highlighted her and they put her into this point of kind of rallying and like leadership within the whole thing of like latching on to something that is like that hope, right? I think that any of us who have gone through like difficult times or struggled with anything, it's just like latching onto that one like bright optimistic thing. And we had that image with Ayan of holding on to that point of light, right? We all kind of have those moments of just kind of reaching for that one thing that is like pulling us out of the void a little bit and letting it propel us forward. So I think that's really fun. And like I think she's like the first one to smile in it too, because they meet at the top of that like chasm and she smiles at them, and then we have the shift in the music. So I think that's also like really fun symbolism there. I'm sure there were lots of other things that I missed because there's probably so much stuff going on in this, and I didn't want to spend too much longer than I already have going through everything. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so next time I post a Stray Kids reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.